If you like our content, please support us on Patreon. The link is below. Welcome to the Twisted Tentacle Inn. I'm your innkeeper, Vase Odin, and today we will be talking about the Seeker Mobility cards. Forbidden! Throughout the life of the game, several cards have been added to the Seeker card pool, granting free or additional movement. Since it takes an action to move, these cards are very valuable as they grant one of the most valued things in the game: extra actions or free abilities that would normally have cost an action if it were not for these cards. Currently, there are 4 such cards in the Seeker card pool. The level 0 event Shortcut, the level 1 asset Pathfinder, the level 1 asset Esoteric Atlas, and the level 2 event Shortcut. Each has its use and each has benefits that the others don't. Let's go through each one and talk about its use and how it differs from the others. Shortcut is a level 0 cost event from the Dunwich Legacy. It has a willpower and agility pip and reads, Fast. Play only during your turn. Choose an investigator at your location. Move that investigator to a connecting location. This card is an amazing card. Because it's an event and it costs 0 resources, you can keep it in your hand until you need it and play it at a moment's notice. The fact that you can use it at any location makes it very versatile. You can use it to move out of a massive enemy's location without taking an attack of opportunity, or you can use it to move an enemy that's engaged with you out of its current location along with you or your investigator. You can use it to save a teammate from a massive enemy's attack or to propel your teammate to another location for whatever reason. What's even better is that it's a tactic traded event. This allows guardians with access to it to place it on Stick to the Plan from the Black Star's Rise, allowing you to have access to it when you need it the most. But as great as this card is, it does have its limitations. You can only use it on your turn, so you wouldn't be able to move another investigator during their turn. You can move another investigator during your turn, though. It is also a single-use card, so you have to know when you want to use it. Sometimes you may waste it on just saving an action, only to need it later when fighting a massive boss. The pips are good, but this card is so good I've never committed it to a test. There's almost always a use for this card. Pathfinder, a level 1 3-cost asset from the Miskatonic Museum Mythos pack, has an agility pip and text that reads, Fast action. During your turn, if you're not engaged with any enemies, exhaust Pathfinder and move to a connecting location. At first glance, this card looks like a better version of Shortcut. It lets you move for free once per round, and because it's an asset and doesn't have a limited amount of uses, if you get it down early, you can basically get an average of 7 or 8 free moves in a game. That's really good. Of all the cards in this video, this one really is the most straightforward in its function, getting a free move once per round. But the card comes with some pretty hefty limitations. First, in order to benefit, you can't be engaged with any enemies in order to use it. You also can't use it on your teammates. These 2 things mean that you don't have as many tactical opportunities with this card as you do with Shortcut level 0. The cost of 3 resources is also extremely prohibitive. I've played many games where I ended up committing this card because I just couldn't find a way to pay for it. Finally, unlike Shortcut, which is a free action to play, this card costs an action to put into play. That means you have to use it at least twice to somewhat get a benefit from it. So if you don't play this card until later in the game, you're not benefiting as much as if you had laid it out early. But despite the limitations, Pathfinder is a fantastic card that can free up a large amount of actions in a game, and it gets even better in long scenarios and scenarios with larger maps. I recommend this card in almost any deck that can take it. Probably the most niche card of the set, Esoteric Atlas is a 3-cost level 1 asset that takes up a hand slot. It has an agility icon and 4 secrets and text that reads, "Spend 1 secret and exhaust Esoteric Atlas. Choose a revealed location that is exactly 2 connections away from your location. Move to that location." A lot of people have issues with this card. While those issues are not unfounded, I do think this card can be very powerful. Clearly, Daisy Walker can benefit the most, as she can effectively move 2 locations and still have 3 actions left in the round. You can also use Knowledge's power with it, saving you a charge and moving 4 locations in 1 action, which is a very powerful combo. But even on its own, I think the purpose of this card is somewhat misunderstood. It's not meant to save you an action for movement. That's what Pathfinder is for. In fact, at 4 charges, you actually get very little in terms of action economy. I think this card works best as a way to avoid danger. From skipping enemies at a location to avoiding locations that cause negative effects, this card is a very tactical card when used properly. Sure, there are a lot of drawbacks, including its cost and the fact that it takes a hand slot. It also costs an action to use and can provoke attacks of opportunity. It also takes an action to play. But most of these are not drawbacks if you use it for danger evasion. In that case, it actually can save you a ton of actions if used properly. You can also use a lot of cards to recharge it, such as Enraptured and others that let you add secrets. You can also search for it with Research Librarian and Backpack, which mean that this card interacts with more cards than any other card in this video. Just don't use it as a means to save move actions, because it's not a good card for that use. The card is also very expensive and, like Pathfinder, can become more of a hindrance if played too late in the game. This card works best if played very, very early. It also takes up a hand slot. Investigators like Joe Diamond, Roland Banks, Zoey Samaras, and Carolyn Fern, some builds with Carolyn Fern, generally need their hand slots for other things, and they'll have trouble finding a way to fit this into their decks. Another drawback is that you can only use it on yourself, and it takes an action to play and then an action to use, which we've discussed can be a big hindrance. Basically, you have to use it 3 times to regain all the actions spent on it. But if it wins you the scenario because you skipped the location that would mean your death otherwise, then even 1 use was totally worth it. But if used with a tactical function in mind, the benefits of this card can far outweigh its limitations. The last card we'll be talking about today is Shortcut Level 2, a 1-cost Level 2 event from the Pallid Mask Mythos pack. It has a willpower, intellect, and agility icon. It has the text that reads, "Fast. Play only during your turn. Attached to your location. Attached location gains exhaust shortcut. Move to a connecting location. Any investigator may trigger this ability." For those of you wondering where that last sentence came from, there was an errata done for this card that added that final sentence to the text of the card. So this card is a very different card from the level 0 version. You know those conveyor belts they have at some airports that let you move really fast from one terminal to another? I feel like this is the Arkham version of that. You lay it down on a location, and anyone at that location, once per turn, can get a burst move for free to a connecting location. Theoretically, it can be used just like the level 0 version, but at a cost of 1 resource. And if you find yourself at that location again, you can do it again and benefit as if you had played another shortcut level 0. The best part of this card, unlike any of the others in this video, is that it can be used out of turn. To place the card down, you can only do so during your turn, but once it's placed down, it may be used by anybody on any turn or phase once per round. Check the rules reference for all the player windows where fast actions can be used. This is the only one of the movement cards that can be used in any of those player windows. Although it seems kind of minor, the cost of one can mean that you may be prevented from playing it if you have some bad luck or need the resource for something else. The fact that it's placed in a location can cause some players to hold off playing it early, even if it would have been the right play, in anticipation of needing it at a different location. And there is a reason for this. Being able to place it means generally you want to maximize the benefits from the card. But some may be apprehensive that they may be making a mistake. Or, on the other side of the token, you can place it only to realize it could have been better at a different location. What's good is it retains the tactic trait, which means you can still pair it with stick to the plan. It also doesn't take any asset slots. Of all the cards in this video, this is the one that can provide the most tactical possibilities. It's a fantastic card that should be considered, especially if playing in multiplayer. And that does it for today's video on the Seeker mobility cards. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. And if you have any questions, you can leave them down there in the comments below. As always, I am your innkeeper, Vase Odin from the Twisted Tentacle Inn. Check in anytime. I'll talk to you then.